Interpreting and reporting data. Examples in action. Inmate educational programs have been part of the United States prison system since 1876. It wasn't until the 1960s that prisons in certain states began offering college courses to inmates, and by 1983, these college-level courses were available in most prisons. These educational programs were being subsidized by the U.S. federal government through Pell Grants between 1972 and 1995. However, the Pell Grants were denied to inmates after Congress passed the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act in 1994. There has been an exponential decrease in educational programs since. With the steady rise of crime since the 1970s, the remaining educational programs have made us ask, do inmate educational programs decrease recidivism rates? The results have shown that they do in fact decrease reoffending rates. Not only that, but the cost of investing in educational programs is actually cheaper than housing a reoffending inmate. Inmates have shown that they are interested in higher education for many reasons. The programs promote and provide safe environments. Inmates are temporarily removed from the violent prison culture. The pursuit of knowledge sounds appealing, and the chances of having more opportunities available once out of jail is never a negative. This chart details the cost of inmate housing compared to the cost of elementary and secondary education for students across 40 states. It becomes obvious that it is more expensive to house inmates than it is to provide education. In a meta-analysis conducted by Davis and his colleagues, they found inmate educational programs cost around $1,400 to $1,744 per inmate. On the other hand, cost for reoffending inmate housing was around $8,700 to $9,700 per inmate. It is 5 times more expensive to house inmates than to educate them. GTL, which is a technology firm, provides corrections with tech that is used for inmate education. Their data has been consistent with similar studies on inmate education. For every dollar spent on educational programs, $4 are saved on reincarceration costs. Inmates who participated in educational programs were less likely to recidivate. The 30% decrease in recidivism from vocational training is an example. So, why are these results important, and how do they shape society? It is important because 95% of inmates will at some point leave prison. Wouldn't it be better to have educated inmates that are capable of contributing to society? Bosick and his colleagues conducted a meta-analysis that reviewed 37 years' worth of studies on the relation between inmate educational programs and the decrease in recidivism among participating and non-participating inmates. Their data showed inmates were 28% less likely to reoffend if they participated in educational programs compared to non-participants. Overall, that means there is less crime happening thanks to educational programs. Another social impact is that taxpayer dollars can be spent elsewhere if it is not being wasted on solely housing inmates. Inmates who participate in educational programs have better odds of being employed after leaving prison. They could also find passion for some trade they learned, and reoffending could deprive them of that. All around, inmates are less likely to return to previous criminal patterns. However, the enactment of laws is an absolute way to influence society. In 1994, we saw how inmate educational programs were affected after the ban of the Pell Grants to inmates. The removal of inmate rehabilitation did not improve recidivism rates and may have contributed to it instead. But in 2015, President Barack Obama reinstated the previously banned Pell Grants for inmates. This has been a step to prison reformation and criminal rehabilitation. Even the current President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, has advocated for the inmate educational programs as part of his administration's goal of reforming the criminal justice system. The data does not seem to be misleading or deceptive in any way. Inmate educational program studies are a good example on how their results can shape society for the better.
Now that Pablo has covered an important topic within the criminal justice system, I will be talking about a topic that affects everyone, which is the sugar scandal. During the 50s, the SRF, the Sugar Research Foundation, wanted Americans to consume more sugar through low-fat diets. The SRF also demonized high-fat diets by correlating it to cardiovascular diseases. During the 60s is when SRF was made aware that low-fat diets with higher sugar intake was linked to high cholesterol. Two of Harvard's nutritionists, Dr. Hegsted and Dr. McGandy, soon became lead researchers in something known as Project 226. Project 226 was put into effect to pay off these Harvard researchers to disguise the negative effects on sugar intake. Through this project, Americans decreased their fat intake and increased sugar intake, which in turn caused more cravings and insulin spikes in people. Because of SRF's lack of transparency, there was a major change to the food pyramid, resulting in high-carb, low-fat diets. Soon, other researchers connected that an increased sugar intake was then connected with obesity, heart disease, and diabetes.